Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of The Unprofessional Entrepreneur. I'm so excited to have you tuning in this week to learn all there is to learn about angles. I absolutely love teaching about angles when I teach in guest programs, when I speak on other podcasts. It ends up being the highlight of the show. If you don't know what angles are, you're about to learn. I think I've only done one episode so far that focuses on angles, and that was titled The Best Repurposing Tip I Know. So it's like not even in the title. But that repurposing tip is the use of angles. Today, I'm going to introduce you to the 4 angles we use in my agency, what angles are and how they work, so that you can start using angles yourself and start seeing the benefits and joy of using angles in your marketing. All right, so what are angles? When I'm teaching in groups, I always do this visual in the presentation of a prism with the light going into the prism and the rainbow coming out the other side. This is a total Magic School Bus idea that came to my brain when I was explaining this. If you didn't watch the Magic School Bus growing up, did you even learn about science? I'm pretty sure all my lessons came from Magic School Bus and Bill Nye because I was not a science girly. So your original content is the light beam going into the prism. It is the plain white light that enters the prism. Angles are the prism. When your content comes out the other side as the rainbow, that is your repurposed content. Do you see this with me? Or am I the only one who's picking up what I'm putting down? There are 8 angles. We use case studies, inspirational content, limiting beliefs, myths, mistakes, polarizing opinions, value adds, and objections. When you use all 8 of these, you will be able to create new content without ever repeating yourself. And it extends beyond that because you could make a case study content for threads or for your reel, and then you'd make a case study content for your email, and that will shift because of the platform you're writing it for. On Threads and Instagram, because those are lead generation places, you will be going more for the flashy hook, where in email you'll be going for the deeper insight and the I can see myself inside of this. You know, it's like on Reels, it's like I want you to aspire to have this, and on email, it's I want you to see yourself in this and know that you can have this result. So just using the 8 angles isn't even the end of the line, because if you change the intention, which is something I talk about in different episodes, I guess I'll have to make another episode about content intentions just because it hasn't happened in this season. But essentially there are 4 content intentions: generating leads, selling, nurturing, and educating. Those intentions, with my agency, we put them to platform or to content type. Like if you have carousels and reels, they'll have different intentions between them. Those intentions also change the angles. But let's get into the 8 angles because let's get into the 8 angles, starting with inspirational content. I think a lot of us are great at creating inspirational content, and it can also be somewhere that you get stuck. A lot of the times when I do remixes, I find that the majority of the content clients give to me were either value add content or inspirational content. Value add content tends to be educational, inspirational content tends to be nurturing or lead gen. So inspirational content can be your journey. It can speak to your client's desires. It can speak to the transformation people want to have. It's very like imagine the possibilities type content. And it's great, but not all buyers like it. Not all buyer types like it. Some people find it to be too fluffy or not concrete enough, or they can't see themselves. So you need to share more angles on the same topic than just your inspirational content. Next up is limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs are the fears that people have about themselves and their ability to see or have the transformation that you're selling. This is different than objections, because objections are the literal excuses they're giving for why they can't have this. I always like to approach objections like the frequently asked questions of like, what if I'm not a coach? What if I haven't been creating content for 5 years? What if I'm selling a new offer, right? Like, these are objections, but they're also some of my frequently asked questions. So when you're creating limiting belief content, I want you to be careful not to, what's the word I'm looking to? Not to put the people down for having this like lingering fear or lingering doubt about themselves, about the offer, about their ability to achieve whatever desire you're selling. You want to phrase it as, this is completely normal to think this, and this is how we're going to work through it. That's what I like to have as my approach to limiting beliefs, because I don't like to do mean girl content, the you're scared and you're never going to get anywhere if you stay scared kind of content. I'm not a big fan of. Moving on to myths. I'm noticing that there's really close ties as I walk through these between myths and mistakes, between limiting beliefs and objections, between inspirational and value adds. Myths are the misconceptions people have about your service or about the transformation that you're selling. So for me, I talk a lot about myths of content repurposing. Content repurposing isn't just copy pasting. Content repurposing isn't only for the people who have 10 people teams. And you can also see this if you are a career coach. Okay, so if you're a career coach, hiring a career coach is only for executives. That's a myth. Career coaches only help you with resumes and applying. That's a myth, right? So you can address these situations and share why you believe they're a myth and how you help them through this specific situation that people don't believe or people think that's holding them back from working with you. Mistakes, I feel like, is pretty easy. It's common mistakes your ideal client is making. The mistake they're making before they hire you, right? So for me, a common mistake is you're using ChatGPT to repurpose your content and you're losing your brand voice. You're making a mistake. A robot shouldn't be writing your content for you. It still needs a human touch. Let's say you're an operations assistant. A mistake that your clients might be making is DIYing it themselves when they don't actually understand the strategy behind their ops, right? Because like, I knew what I wanted from my operations, but did I know how to strategize my operations? No. So I hired someone, right? So speaking to that mistake the person is making right before they hire you. Next up, we're getting into unpopular opinions, also known as polarizing opinions, and these are your bold and spicy angles. One of mine is that repurposed content is new content, right? People think it's just copy-paste content, which is a myth. And then the polarizing opinion of that myth is, I believe repurposed content is new content. I also believe that repurposed content is the best outsourced content. I have a lot of beliefs about content repurposing, obviously, as it's my industry, but you can have any kind of polarizing opinion about your industry, about your niche, about your offer itself. There's so many bold, spicy angles. And if you don't know what yours are, if you're like, I don't really have any bold opinions, go into ChatGPT and say like, this is my offer, this is my industry, this is my niche, this is what I do, this is my approach, my framework. What part of this is against the norm? Or how can or what's a bold stance I can take about my offer or about my brand or about my industry, right? And ChatGPT will help you brainstorm. Obviously, then put it into your own words so you don't sound forced. But it's a fun one. I love an unpopular opinion. It has gotten me far in my Instagram days. A lot of my content that did really well was unpopular opinions, so I will never knock it. I know some people think that it can be rage baity or clickbaity, but I think if they're true opinions, they're worth sharing because you'll find your people through them and you'll turn off the ones you don't want to work with. Next up, value add content. I touched on this when we talked about inspirational content, but value add content is content that provides value. It's pretty straightforward. This is great educational content. If you think about your how-to content, if you think about any content that's really specific to parts of your framework, right? That touches on step-by-step type of content, that content is value add content. And it really, really has a place in your marketing strategy. I know people don't like how-to content anymore, but I think it's really important to educate on your process. This is where if you're doing how-to content, I don't want how to hire a VA or how to DIY your systems. Like, I don't write how to repurpose your content, right? I'm going to say how you can use the clip framework to repurpose your content. See the difference? You position it around your framework, your expertise, and that's how-to content becomes unique and powerful instead of just anyone could have posted that. And the seventh angle we're talking about is objections. I did touch on this when we talked about limiting beliefs. Objections are the questions people have before buying. Think about the person who is on the fence about working with you. What objection, what excuse are they making to not hire you? Answer these in your sales emails, in your sales content, and you will convert people. These are some of my favorite to write because a lot of my clients don't like writing emails, but I love a good objection email. It can reach your people in the right place at the right time in an email because they get to sit down and read it when they want, and you get to have a nice spicy subject line, which I'm always here for. All right, the eighth and final angle is case studies, testimonial content. I want you to do the A to B transformation content. So-and-so found me and they were doing blank and I helped them achieve blank. Learn how X went to Y through my offer. These types of content, again, are great for emails, but they can go in so many different places because everybody wants proof of your offer working. It's not just, here's my story, which works when you're new. It does work. I'm not saying don't share your own journey, your own testimonial. But once you are charging high ticket, once you have been running your offer for a minute, everybody wants to see somebody's success from your service, somebody's results from your service. A great person to talk to if you want to learn more about this is Jocelyn at Scale Your Resonance. And you're in luck because she's actually coming on the podcast in the Unprofessional Marketing series, which I don't think I've announced yet, but it will be coming very shortly. And I'm talking to all different experts in their field about marketing strategies gurus aren't telling you about. And that includes writing bomb-ass case studies. So Jocelyn will hopefully dive into what makes a great case study so that you can take that episode and these angles and write better content. But those are the 8 angles. Those are actually a big part of my repurposing strategy in the agency. I heavily use them for the remix to make sure that I'm not just giving you 10 ideas of the same thing. When you book a remix and you give me a piece of inspirational content or a case study, I am going to hit it from every single angle of, this is an objection someone might have if they're in this position. This is a mistake someone's making before they start on this journey. This is a myth of what someone believes, why they can't take this journey. This is your bold angle on why this works, right? So there's so many different things that can be done when you start implementing intentions and angles into your content repurposing. I mean, into your content in general, but into content repurposing specifically. If you don't want to do it yourself, then you can check out my agency, FD Studio. We have both the Remix, which is content ideation, and Repurposing Unlimited, which is done for you content. My DMs are open on Instagram and LinkedIn, or you can email me info@fellyday, and we can talk about repurposing your content. But that's where I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of The Unprofessional Entrepreneur. I will catch you all next week with another episode. And don't forget to stay unprofessional and rate and review.